They all blend together.
Welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino with you. Big show coming your way today, folks. We have some great guests coming your way. We have Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic, does a great job covering the draft. Cynthia Freeland, who obviously is the analytics expert for NFL Network. We're going to have Greg Cosell, longtime NFL Films producer, creator of the Matchup Show. And we're going to have Connor Rogers, who covers the draft for NBC Sports. So, big show coming your way today. We'll get to those interviews in a second. But, Paul, we did have some news today. Abdul Carter, we knew he wasn't going to work out, but then they did the medicals on him, and they found out he is I'm going to term it this, a minor stress fracture in his foot. I call it minor because reports seem to indicate he's not going to have surgery on it, which is good for him. He says he's going to be ready to go and work out on his pro day in about a month, but he's not working out, and that's a little thing to note for a guy that most people expect to be one of the top 3 picks in the draft.
Well, you consider that he and Travis Hunter are the consensus 2 best players above and beyond everybody else in this draft, and now we find out there is a glitch. Now, when we talked to Carter on the podium 2 days ago, John, he had just come from his medicals. And, no one had asked him about that because nobody had a clue.
Well, remember, they might have not looked at the images yet.
They may not have.
Right.
He certainly didn't offer that, and why would you? But I think the interesting part here now is that even though the experts have assumed, again, the reports don't have the surgery, well, that's good, but that's still something that's got to heal. And every team's medical staff is now going to have to consult with their general manager and say, okay, how do you view this? Is it a real yellow flag? Is it a red flag? Can it get worse? I mean, I've never had one, John. Here's what I do know. Ahmad Bradshaw for the Giants, running back who we all know and love, had to miss practice upon practice upon practice throughout his career because they had to save all of his reps for game day because he had a stress fracture in his foot and it never fully healed right. So you have to take this into account when you grade Abdul Carter.
Yes, so we also spoke to all the DBs today. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, what we kind of gleaned from talking to the defensive backs today and the tight ends. I thought a lot of interesting guys to talk to, so we'll touch on that on the final segment of the show. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear from Connor Rogers from NBC Sports.
Hey, how are you? Hi. I'm Kayvon. Nice to meet you.
For me, it's just a blessing to always be that impact for somebody else. I always say try to be somebody to somebody. So when I go, I want my feet and my hands to move just as fast, right? It's been great getting to learn a lot, getting to meet a lot of kids. It kind of reminds you of where you used to be, and it reminds you of the impact that people have in your life.
There you go.
I think we had a tremendous impact on them, just being able to bring them a smile on the day and be able to, really interact with them and get to know them.
And one more. Hey.
Really getting to step back and enjoy the moment.
John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino, joined by Connor Rogers from NBC Sports. Connor, what's up, man?
Not much, and a lot. It's a lot of fun down here, man. Just running around. Everybody's getting into the draft, so I really appreciate you guys having me.
No, we appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to Connor in more detail on a Giants huddle later on in the process. Let's kind of start here before we dig a little bit deeper into this process. What do you think the top of this draft is going to look like when all is said and done? Titans, you take it as far to the Jets if you want. What do you think this is going to look like? Because I think once you get past Carter and Hunter, there's not a whole lot of agreement on what comes next after those 2 guys.
There really isn't. I think that teams will really, really like Will Campbell, and the demand for offensive line will put him in that top 7 group. The question is, and teams are going to be torn on this, is he a tackle? Is he a guard? He played left tackle for LSU. If I'm guessing, I think his arm length will come in a little under the common threshold around here.
33?
I would get to 33 plus. Like, it's going to be.
If you get to 33, he's going to start at tackle then.
Yeah, he needs to get to 33, but it'll be torn for teams. Some teams won't care. They'll think the lower half is explosive enough that he makes up for it. I'd put him in that group. You always try to pick a group of players. Figuring out how they're going to fall could be a little tricky. Cam Ward's going to go in that top 7. Do I think he'll go number 1? signs don't really point that way. He's a wild card, and obviously if he fell to the Giants at 3 and their free agency doesn't go a certain way, maybe that becomes in play. Mason Graham will go in that group for sure, the Michigan defensive tackle. Jacksonville's just such a no-brainer fit for him in the top 5.
Same way the Campbell is for the Patriots. Like, it just makes too much sense.
100%. And then you kind of fall into this bucket, like, is Shedeur going to slide on draft night? Nobody really knows. Because the problem is you need the pro market to settle to figure out who really needs a quarterback, right? Where is Matthew Stafford going to go if he goes anywhere? Where is Russell Wilson going to go? Justin Fields. And I know these aren't insane, inspiring names after Stafford, but they're starting quarterbacks in the league. So, and then you kind of get into the guys that are fringe guys, like can Tet McMillan or Tyler Warren, 2 pass catchers sneak into that top 7. Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, who I don't think will go in that top 7 now. I think the injured season cost him a couple of spots. And then everybody else is wondering, is there a second offensive lineman after Will Campbell, whether it is an Armand Membu from Missouri, a guy like Kelvin Banks from Texas who had a really, really good year. There's a couple of guys, you're waiting on medical questions as well. So it's as wide open as it could really be. After Carter and Hunter, who I say some combo of in the top 3 picks. Yeah. But, we'll see.
So you do a lot of work with the Jets broadcast team as well. And I think it's interesting that the Jets and the Giants both have a very, very skimpy quarterbacks room as we speak,
That's a good way to put it.
I'm trying to be nice here.
Yeah.
So what are the odds that both of these teams are looking for the same guy to solve their problem? And what are the odds that the Jets might feel they've got to do a preemptive strike on the Giants to get the guy they want?
That's a fascinating scenario. I think in a perfect world, both teams would love to add a viable starting quarterback in the pro market, right? And now for the Jets, I would say it's a lesser degree because they're already paying Tyrod Taylor this year. Mm-hmm. But if they go out and explore Justin Fields, and you're going into camp with Fields and Tyrod, and then you feel like, hey, we could draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round and let him sit behind those 2 guys, and we'll see if they get anything from Jordan Travis this year. With the Giants, it's really interesting because if you pull off a Stafford trade, you're not talking about a quarterback at 3 anymore, right? But if you don't, and then, you're buying in a different bracket, whether that is a Russell Wilson, whoever it may be, then I think you still are. You're still looking at it and you're saying, well, now our advantage is we don't need to throw that player into the fire and we don't need to make a panic move up to 1. Right. We could sit at 3. If Cam Ward falls to 3, great. We'd probably love to have him in that scenario. If Cam Ward is gone and we're a little split on a guy like Shedeur Sanders, maybe we'll wait until round 2 and we'll look at Jackson Dart, or we'll look later on day 2 and look at Will Howard or whoever it may be. So it is fascinating. I think everybody's kind of in this old Western showdown where they're figuring out. Cam Ward, I think, is the consensus top quarterback. That's the feeling I get. I know for me personally it's been that way, but I think in the NFL he's going to have more of the top quarterback grades than anybody else by a wide margin. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's trying to figure out the poker face of, are the Titans really just not going to take a quarterback number 1 overall? The Browns, I think they'll go after a veteran. Like if Kirk Cousins ended up there, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Okay. And then you're not talking about a quarterback at 2 anymore. You're talking about a player. And they might have extra picks if they really do move on from Myles Garrett, which makes it that much more fascinating. Yeah. So then you could have, I think the Jets would be open to making a move for a guy like Cam Ward if he started to fall. I don't see the Jets going up to number 1 overall. Those guys just got there. You're going to trade your future drafts and say, this is the guy we have to have. I think it's easier to have patience when you're in Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji's shoes, or Joe Shane and Brian Dable. Like, you need to have somebody under center that can win you games this year. There has to be urgency.
Absolutely.
So depending on what they do in the pro market will dictate that level of urgency in the draft.
And Joe Shane was pretty clear about in this press conference that
he knows.
He knows.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question, let's say they get someone they feel really good about, that, next few years you can start him at quarterback, you're good, but you want to draft a developmental quarterback on day 2 of this draft. Do you have a favorite tier 2, tier 3 quarterback that you think if you get in your system for a couple years you can develop into something?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of months ago I felt like Dart was that guy. He's gotten out of that tier. Like, I really think somebody can come back into round 1 and take him, where I don't consider him in that bracket anymore. When you think tier 2, you're thinking, like, who's the guy? Like when Will Levis fell. And he still went in the top 40, but you use this, Tennessee used a second-round pick on Will Levis. That's kind of what you're looking at. Man, it's wide open. I think Kyle McCord did some really good things at Syracuse this year. Mm-hmm. You saw the accuracy. You saw the touch at all 3 levels. He was a really different player when he transferred to Syracuse from Ohio State.
And the mobility is a big deal for a lot of guys.
Right, and Will Howard has some of that from Ohio State, wins the national championship. What I liked about Howard was this year, you watch him in the offense the first, I would say until about the end of October, and he looked like a guy that kind of wanted to be along for the ride, play point guard. Then you watch the last 2 months of the season, he wanted to elevate the offense. He wanted to make plays. He wanted to take chances and make big throws. So Will Howard would fall into that bracket for me. Milroe, exceptional running ability. He is so streaky as a passer and inconsistent that I just don't think you're going to play him this year. I think
you can't.
he really needs to sit. If he went to a team with a shaky quarterback situation, could he have some packages in the red zone because he's a gifted runner? Without a doubt. But he really just needs so much seasoning. We saw it at the Senior Bowl. He didn't have a great week at the Senior Bowl in terms of inaccuracies as well. So that's kind of that bracket right there. All those guys, they'll probably hear their name called off the board in rounds 2 and 3.
What's interesting to me, Connor, is that if you look at, and I know there'll be a certain mixture depending upon who you talk to, but maybe the top 10 consensus quarterbacks in this draft, we've all heard how it may not be the most sexy draft for QBs.
Yeah.
But what I found when I went through the Parcells rules and I applied them to all of these guys, they checked almost every one of Parcells'
They played a lot of
boxes,
college football.
specifically because of experience,
Yep.
winning, and touchdown to interception ratio.
Yep.
All very important. These guys, maybe they won't have the ceiling, but I got a feeling we're going to see a lot of backup quarterbacks come out of this draft.
I completely agree with you, and I think I didn't even bring up Tyler Shuck from Louisville,
Right.
who has a big arm. He's played a lot of college football. A lot of that is because he was injured early on. I think he has 6 full years of college football, 3 programs. Once upon a time, big recruit, huge arm, somebody that I don't think he's very mobile, which is kind of interesting in this era when you are a true pocket passer. And he'll be a 25-year-old rookie, so some teams will be deterred from that. But that's somebody to me that stands out. NFL arm, played really clean football for Louisville this year, could push the ball vertically as well as really anybody, I think, in this class at times. Where you look at him and go, can he be a long-term backup? I look at McCord that way as well. Riley Leonard will be interesting to see. I don't think he goes till day 3, but he can run, he can manage the offense. He did a lot of good things at Duke. He dealt with some injury, and then you look at what he did at Notre Dame. I know he knew how to manage the offense and play within it. So I think there's a lot of backup quarterback types in this. People always want to project this ceiling that everyone has to be a starter, and that's not the world that all quarterback prospects live in. There's a lot of depth for backups, yeah.
All right, Giants have another premium pick at pick number 34. You're going to get a really good player at that spot. I think some teams that might have one player at 15 on their board could be at 40 on another board in this draft. So who are some of the guys that you would kind of circle for the Giants at 34 that you think really great value, bang for the buck, that fits in, even more importantly for the Giants, is just a really, really talented player?
Right, and you can go so many ways with this, right? Like, do you look at it and go, we want a true number 2 outside wide receiver, where we like our personnel to be Malik, obviously, in that, and Wandale in that, but we want a perimeter player, maybe somebody that's 6'4", and somebody that can give you a little bit more red zone juice, right? I look at Jaden Higgins from Iowa State and think he's just, what a player, right? And he's so consistent over the last couple of years. He's just really good hands. He moves good at that size, ball tracking skills, run after the catch ability. That would be somebody that fits that mold. Same with Jack Besh from TCU, former tight end, so he's 220 pounds. He can block, really good hands, physical over the middle of the field. If they want to go pass catcher, they can go that route.
Do you like the Stanford wide receiver? Another bigger guy kind of in that.
I like him. I don't love him because he constantly has to play in congested areas. He doesn't run away from a lot of people. And at Higgins' size, he surprisingly does.
Yeah.
And you can live like that in the NFL, but it's a tough way to live. Because when you get to if you weren't running away from a lot of people at the college level, and I'll give Io Manor a lot of credit, another great blocker. Like tough, physical, younger player in this class. But it's tough to make a living in the NFL when you're constantly having to go above the rim, and he might be able to do it. But you like guys that could separate a little bit more consistently. And then you look at, are they going to look at this offensive line class and say, hey, one of the guys we thought was going to go in the first round is going to fall, and we're going to take him, whether we want to beef up our interior with a Gray Zabel.
Gray Zabel would be great at that.
Gray Zabel, I mean,
he's impressive.
He could probably play center or guard at the NFL level, and you love that flexibility. You really, and that's where he should go, right? That 34th pick kind of range, right outside the first round. Zabel would bring a lot of juice to the offensive line. I thought he was so clean in pass pro at the Senior Bowl. And if you want a true tackle, what if a Josh Connerly falls? What if a guy like Simmons from Ohio State falls after he tore up his knee this year? Those are guys that you look at and go, man, we might be getting a discount here where we're going to get a franchise caliber tackle that we want to play on the right side.
Even the Minnesota tackle, right? Ursary.
Ariante Ursary's another guy where, there's a world where maybe Ursary makes it to 65. Maybe he's just kind of a forgotten man. He was okay this year. I thought he was a little better the year before, but I thought he was great in Mobile. I thought he looked good in one-on-ones. You see the base, so sturdy, 330 pounds, good feet. So I think their day 2 strategy, can you get some depth that's going to start eventually on your offensive line? Can you find another pass catcher for this offense? And then if you're the Giants, I like Tyrone Tracy a lot. you can capitalize on the depth of this running back class on day 3
Right.
to give a viable backup solution to Tracy, or somebody that splits touches, maybe takes on a different role. You look at Allen from Syracuse, pass-catching running back, or maybe they like Tracy in that pass-catching role instead, and they want more of a banger between the tackles. So
which is how I would go.
I would go that way, too. If you can get somebody a little physical between the tackles downhill, maybe they look at it as a bigger need than we do here, and they go, hey, in the second round, we like Quinshon Judkins or Caleb Johnson from Iowa. We
How
want to
far
be
does Scadaboo fall?
Scadaboo, I think third round. I don't know if he's going to run before the draft, and everybody is kind of just the speed is the question.
Can he break a 4.6? Like, it's a real question.
I don't think so. And I think that's okay, by the way. That's what's funny when people ask that. They look at you and go, well, you hate him. No, it's just he reminds me so much of Ramondre Stevenson, who also ran, I think, a 4.63.
Yeah. Oh, did he really a 4.63?
Yes.
I didn't realize
yes.
that.
Yes, same body. Really,
that's
both
a good comp. I like
both
that.
good in pass pro, soft hands for bigger guys, and people bounce off of them. And Ramondre's been beat up over the years, and there was some of the fumble issues this year, but once upon a time, he was a hell of a player for that team. They're very similar to me, and I think the usage should be the same.
All right, John Mara was very clear. One of his top 3 priorities for this team going into this year was to get a better rush defense because he was tired of seeing teams run up and down the field against his Giants. Well, we know defensive tackle is supposed to be the deepest by far position in this draft. So I'm going to say to you, where does the run start, or the second run of DTs? How far deep can you go and still get a guy who's literally a plug-and-play guy who can help this rush defense?
I think you can get that with the 65th pick. And I'm talking about a real player, like a good player. Alfred Collins from Texas. I mean, he's played all up and down the line for Texas. A lot of nose tackle, which is what you like, because if you can play true nose tackle at the college level and you show you could hold up on the point of attack when you have, the combo blocks, when the centers and guards are really getting up to you and you hold the point of attack, you're probably going to do pretty well at the NFL level in that role. Collins could be there at 65. He might be one of the guys that falls because there's not much pass rush ability, while all these guys have crazy pass rush ability. I love Jamari Caldwell from Oregon. I don't know if he even goes in the third round. 340 pounds, great feet. You look at all the Oregon guys that get all this love. Jordan Birch is one. Obviously, Harmon is one. He's the guy holding all the blockers up. It's, phenomenal what he did on tape this year. That's a value play. I don't think there's ever a place where you're just out of luck. I really don't. We're going to see Mason Graham go in the top 7 picks. We're going to see Walter Nolan from Ole Miss go in the top 12 picks.
Top 12 for him, you really think so?
Yeah, I think so.
285 defensive tackle in the top 12?
Yeah.
Whew,
they just don't move like him.
No, I
agree. There's a lot of risk with that. There is a lot of risk with that, but and then it's just gonna scattershot all the way through. But it depends what you need. Like, even if you need super big discount, Jordan Phillips from Maryland. He's a oak tree in his base that could just championship weightlifter in high school. He's somebody that he's not going to give you anything against the pass, but hey, base downs, first and second down. I need you to sit in the middle of the defensive line and eat up as much space as you can. You probably get him in the 4th or 5th round.
J.J. Pegues.
Pegues is another one. He also ran the ball.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable. There's so many defensive linemen that are NFL caliber starters. When we did on the PFF Stock Exchange pod our rankings, I think I ranked 15. I watched 17. I feel like I'm not even halfway done. I'm going to have to watch 34 defensive linemen, I think, when all is said and done. It's just that deep of a group. Like, you look at Yaha Black from Iowa. He probably goes in the 6th round, and he could be in a rotation for you because he's colossal.
He was one of the most physically gifted guys at the Senior Bowl when we were there. He consisted as hell, but he's just gifted.
Yeah, he's just out there really, still learning how to hand placement and get off the ball. He's still but he's huge, and he doesn't really get moved around. So I know it's insane to answer the question that way. I don't think the run ever stops. I think we'll see starters in the 6th round of this draft.
Gotta love the trenches.
Yeah. My advice to teams like the Giants and the Jets, I would take 2 of them. I would take 1 in the first 3 rounds, and I'd take 1 in the back half of the
draft. There's enough of them there.
Why not? You're going to hit. Like, you're playing the odds. You're going to hit.
And you can never have enough rotational defensive linemen. All right, final question before we let you go. Do you have a day 3 pet cat that maybe you like better than other people that we should put on people? Oh, you're excited about it. What do you got?
Jacob Parrish, Kansas State corner. 5'9". I feel like nobody cares about him. I think in terms of being sticky, like best pure cover player, he's in the top 5 of this corners and just coverage skills. Right, like staying with guys. He's going to have an interesting transition because at Kansas State he was an outside corner at 5'9". He's probably going to kick into the nickel at the next level, although I wouldn't bet against him if he did play some outside corner. High school track champion, like sprint speed. He's going to light it up here if he runs. He has the right DNA where you think he's a 6'1" corner playing in a 5'9" corner's body. Loves to play the ball, gets after it against the run. He's just so hard to get away from. He matches movements. It's really perfect. He's 20 years old. So this is somebody with a lot of upside as well, declared early for the draft. I think Parrish is a really, really good player. I'm floored that he's not in everyone's top 75 players in this draft. If he doesn't go in the 3rd round, he'll be one of the biggest values on day 3.
Wow. Yeah. Connor, good stuff, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Always so good to see you guys.
He mentioned the Stock Exchange podcast. That's via PFF. Find it on your favorite podcast platform. And then what are you doing for NBC that the folks should know about?
I got 40 interviews with players this week. I can't wait to see them. They'll all be up on YouTube.
40?
Yeah, we'll split them up between me, Sims, Florio, Nicole Auerbach, and we're going to talk to these guys and learn what they're about. It's all on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun.
Make sure you guys go check that out. All right, we'll be back with more on Big Blue Kickoff Live after this.
All right, Sean, we got 335 max base. We got X post, okay? Here's the post signal. I gave you the post signal. Give me a good fake right behind me.
Richie, I got you.
All right, wide 18. Right this side. Oh, right there. Oh, he goes. He looks.
He's open. Go get it. Go get it. Let's go!
It's the post route!
Let's go! Yeah. That was awesome. Great route. Money! That was money. I think it just scattered.
Yes!
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh, let's go.
Woo! You want to go
I
for
didn't
it?
cross the line, O'Hara. I didn't cross the line.
Nice.
All right, we're back here on Big Blue Kickoff Live from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino, and now we're joined by producer? Is that your official NFL analyst at NFL Films? Greg Cosell?
Whatever you want to call me. I've been called a lot of things.
How about
especially
Pro
on
Football
social
Guru?
media.
How
I
about
like
that?
that. And you can also, of course, he's part of the Edge NFL Matchup Show as well. Does a great job with that with our man Sal Paolantonio.
I created that show.
Were you the creator of that show? I didn't know that.
In 1984. It's been on every year since.
I didn't know you were the creator. That's
I
awesome.
was. I
That's
created
excellent.
that show.
The great Ali Sherman.
He was initially on. You
I
are
know
correct.
that. I used to watch it.
Steve Sable, Chris Berman, and Ali Sherman.
Really?
1984.
Loved Ali.
That's phenomenal. I love
Yeah.
that. All right, so let's dig into it. And obviously the Giants are going to have to figure out their quarterback position here, Greg, one way or the other. We have the draft and we have free agency. So let's take them in the order in which they occur in real life. So let's start with free agency. There are a number of veterans that could become available via free agency or trade that the Giants might avail themselves of in terms of quarterback. What's your take on some of these guys and how much maybe some of them have left in the tank?
So the free agents, again, I'm very much in draft mode now. So the free, like Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, Justin Fields would be the two major veteran free agents, I would
so
say,
they're
right, Paul?
actual free agents.
Yes.
So they are not under contract.
Correct.
I mean, I guess the name that is on everybody's lips right now, and he's under contract, so he's not available technically, but that would be Matthew Stafford.
And there are reports that the Rams have allowed his agent to talk to people.
That's what you read, so, I mean, I guess we'll find out how all that plays out. I personally think Stafford, I'll tell you this. Going around talking to people last summer, and I don't think there was anything about this season that changed that viewpoint, going around and talking to coaches last summer, and you said, who's the best quarterback in the NFC? Automatically they said Matthew Stafford. So, to me, I've always loved watching Matthew Stafford. You know, he's a tremendous thrower of the football. He's incredibly smart and aware. There's plays every year when I watch him on tape where he changes plays at the line and just makes a great play. So I've always been a big Matthew Stafford believer. He just throws the ball at a really, really high level. You know, obviously he needs to be protected. I guess you could say that's been an issue with the Giants, but, you know, he obviously needs to be protected.
Yes.
I guess I'm being kind there.
You are.
Yes. But, you know, to me, the other free agent, the true free agents.
Real quick, Greg, before you jump to them, have
Yeah.
you seen any slippage from him at age 37?
Not in my opinion.
Okay.
Not in my opinion. But, you know, if you get to the free agents, I think those are stopgap guys. And, you know, again, we live in a world where that can sometimes be the way it is, but, you know, I don't look at Russell Wilson or Justin Fields as a guy you'd sign and feel like I'm set for the next 3-4 years.
Right.
I don't think either one of those guys is that guy.
Now, in talking to Phil Simms recently,
My buddy.
he said to me that he thinks that the Achilles injury that Kirk Cousins endured the previous year impacted his mechanics.
It did.
And led to what looked like a dead arm in the second half of the season. What is your opinion from watching the tape?
I'll tell you what struck me with Cousins. And I don't think we'd ever say Cousins had a power arm, but he had a good arm. what struck me, and all this goes together. I mean, I don't think any of us, we're not professional athletes, and we don't know what it's like to work through an injury, but I think it impacts everything about the way you play. And there's probably a major mental side to that, which we can't know. But I thought that Cousins, so uncharacteristically, did not see the field the way he's done almost all his career. Because say what you want about Kirk Cousins, and I know there's mixed opinions about him, but every year he'd throw 35 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and he was really, really good. And as the kind of quarterback he is, which is essentially a pocket quarterback, which I know a lot of people believe that particular style of quarterback is not really in vogue these days unless you're special. But he just threw some balls this year that I would watch the tape and go, he never makes those kinds of poor decisions. So to me, without knowing what's in his head, I would probably say that just the whole injury impacted everything about the way in which he played. And it just wasn't a comfortable season for him at all.
All right, let's jump to the draft now.
Okay.
There are two quarterbacks that most people consider to be at the top. For me personally, I have some separation between those two players, more than I think maybe some others do. What's your take on this rookie class and coming out in the class in terms of the quarterbacks in the 2025 draft?
And I've done all these top quarterbacks. And to me, I think Cam Ward is clearly the number one quarterback in this draft.
So do we.
I agree, sir. Pleasure.
And to be honest with you, now I did Cam Ward last summer from his last year at Washington State, and I did 7 or 8 games this year. And I do not understand why he's not being talked about at a higher level. He's a really gifted player. I mean, he throws the ball exceedingly well. He can work from the pocket efficiently. He's got very good second reaction movement ability, which, again, is something that a lot of people feel is becoming more and more necessary in the league right now.
He's so calm in the pocket.
Yeah.
Nothing rattles him.
No. And I happen to know people at Washington State who said that he is an absolute dog and he's totally accountable, that he's that kind of kid. So, and I know, like Louis Riddick is in our building at NFL Films every Tuesday doing Turning Point, and he's done 4 Cam Ward games. He raves about the kid because, he gets a chance to talk to him. Obviously, I don't. I'm just sitting in my office at Films watching tape. But I just don't understand why he's not being talked about at a higher level. I think the traits are pretty high level to me. And what I've learned about him as an individual just really makes me feel even better about him. So to me, he's clearly the number one quarterback in this draft.
And if I may, to follow up on that, Greg, one of the things that I like the most about him, because I agree that he's the number one QB,
right,
not that I would take him at number 3, but I do think he's the best one. Because of his arm strength and his ability
which is
to
very
throw,
good, by the way.
Yes. Because of his ability to throw off-angle throws and off-schedule
and
throws.
sit on his back foot when there's bodies around him and still drive the football.
He can make those throws
Correct.
that other people can't make under duress.
Well, because Phil Simms is a buddy of yours as well as mine, you know how Phil feels about that.
No doubt.
That guys have to be able to drive the football. And he can drive the football. And as I said, he can sit on his back foot. See, to me, in the NFL, which is different than college football, there's more and more throws where there's bodies around you. What we call a squeeze pocket, a muddy pocket, a noisy pocket. You can't just flee out of the pocket. You have to be able to stand and deliver, and very often you have to be able to do that without really being able to step into your throws. And he can just sit on his back foot and drive the football.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really critical trait.
And I think, Greg, that's a perfect continuation into the Short Sanders conversation, because I think the pocket has to be a little bit more perfect for him. I watched the first 5 or 6 games of Sanders this year. I'm going to watch the rest of them. But before I came out here, I wanted to do my Travis Hunter stuff. So I watched every one of Travis Hunter's targets. And when I walked out
it's a lot of targets.
It's a lot of targets.
It was about 145.
150, I think, right? Yeah. So I watched all the targets.
Although we caught a lot of tunnel screens.
Right, that's the one thing I noticed. The other thing I noticed on those downfield passes, a lot of them were not exactly in stride down the field.
Again, you know how this works. We're all on social media, so you know how this works. That if you mention pros and cons about a player, or let's say strengths and weaknesses, all people respond to are the weaknesses, and then they decide that you hate the guy. So I would say here would be my evaluation of Sanders, who, by the way, I watched for 3 years. 2 summers ago, I watched him at Jackson State. Last summer, I watched him at Colorado. And this year, I did 7 or 8 games at Colorado. So I think he is, in many ways, a prototypical pocket player.
He's a boring pocket passer.
Right.
He's Deion Sanders' kid is a boring pocket passer.
Right.
It's crazy.
And with a good arm, not a great arm.
Agreed.
I would say that he throws it well. I would say that he sees the field well. I think he does throw it well on the move. I don't think he has great pocket awareness and great pocket management.
Agreed.
You have to be aware of one thing. Teams do these studies. I'm one person. I can't do these studies. But I've spoken to GMs. Quarterbacks that get sacked a lot in college, whatever the reason, and we know that the O-line of Colorado wasn't great,
Right.
but quarterbacks that get sacked a lot in college historically get sacked a lot in the NFL. Caleb Williams was sacked 82 times in his final 2 years at USC. He led the NFL this year in sacks. Now, it's easy to say that, oh, it's a bad O-line. But I got to tell you, I listened to Tom Brady, who knows a little more about the quarterback position than I do, and he said that sacks they're basically a function of the quarterback 99% of the time. And when you watch tape, that's true. There's very few jailbreaks. You know, are there some where a quarterback has no chance? Yeah, there are some. But when a quarterback gets sacked a lot in college, you got to be really careful. You've got to study every one of those plays as an individual play. But at the end of the day, Sanders, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. You know, I want to emphasize that. He's basically a ball distributor and an executor of a well-schemed passing game. That's what I think he is. And can he do that at a high enough level to be a good NFL quarterback? Absolutely, he can. But he needs a team.
No, I'm with you.
He needs a team.
Greg, what bothered me most about him, and I didn't watch nearly a percentage of his snaps as you have.
I probably watched 30 games of his over 3 years.
Which is an infinite number more than I did.
Right.
Watching that BYU game from this year,
Right.
it was ugly.
Which I did watch.
Ugly.
Yep.
Okay? That, to me, mimicked the kind of speed and complexities of a defense that he's going to see almost every week in the National Football League. Too many times in that game, he looked lost.
Well, it's funny.
It was not good.
The player that, and I didn't necessarily think of this myself when I was watching his tape, but the player that a number of people who studied him in detail have told me that he reminds them of, and this guy actually throws it better, but just in terms of style of play, is Geno Smith.
Right.
And Geno Smith is a quality NFL quarterback.
Yes.
But I don't think we'd say Geno Smith is a top 5 quarterback in the league.
No.
And if you're going to draft Shadir Sanders number 2, 3, Giants draft 3,
Yeah.
then you're expecting him to become a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league.
He has to elevate everyone around him, not
and I'm
everyone
not sure
else
he's
elevating
that
him.
guy.
Right.
And by the way, there's nothing, we just spoke about Kirk Cousins. Really good career. Obviously not a Hall of Fame career, but a really good career.
Made a lot of money, too, by the way.
Shadir Sanders probably falls more into that kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think we all agree. How big is the gap for you, or maybe Sanders isn't your second guy, into that next tier of quarterbacks with the Jackson Darts, the Milrose, the Tyler Shooks, that kind of next super quarterbacks?
Well, it's funny. I had a very interesting week because I did, last week, based on people talking to me, I did Tyler Shuck. His tape's really good. Mm-hmm. His tape's better than Sanders. Now, again, that's not a judgment as to what they will be in the NFL. His tape is better than Sanders. And I made that comment on a couple of shows, and of course I got ripped. You know how that goes. But then a couple of GMs...
Yes, I do.
Yeah. But then a couple of GMs texted me and said, you're 100% right. Now, and I know some GMs where the age isn't a factor. He'll be 25. But you know what? If he plays 10 years in the league, there's nothing wrong with that.
I like older quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They're more ready to go.
Now, the injury history, that you have to delve into, which I don't, I don't work for a team, so I don't do that. I'm just watching his tape. But Tyler Shuck is 6'4", and I think he was 6'4" and 7/8", something like that, 225. And by the way, size is a trait. I remember last year, I'm fortunate enough at the Combine to get on the field, and I remember standing next to Drake May and introducing myself, and he is a big dude. And, again, you can be successful at 6'1". We know that. None of this, I hope people understand, none of these are absolutes. When I say that Tyler Shuck's tape was better than Sanders, that doesn't mean I think Shuck's great and Sanders stinks. That's not what I mean.
Right.
But his tape was better. And I'm very curious to see how the league sees Tyler Shuck. He's had kind of a star-crossed college career. He ended up being in college for 7 years. He was a big-time recruit coming out of the state of Arizona. played at Oregon, ended up losing his job to Justin Herbert, who's pretty good. And then he went to Texas Tech. You know, never really could play a full season due to injury. This year he played a full season. Like I said, his tape's really good.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question now, and indulge me. Dan Solomon is one of our Giants.com staff writers.
Okay.
He is an Ohio State guy. In fact, he is Buckeye wild over all the Ohio State prospects. Will Howard, he says to me, has been underrated, and underrated 3 times over, and should be talked about at least with the second crop of quarterbacks in this draft. Now, I didn't believe him, and then I watched the playoff games, and he looked really good. Although he doesn't have the strongest arm, he did a lot of really nice things in the college football playoffs.
Yeah,
I'm going to assume you've seen more. What's the lowdown?
I've done Will Howard. I did him last summer at Kansas State, and I was really intrigued.
This is for you, Dan.
And then I did him this year already. He's very intriguing to me. He's not a great thrower. I mean, he's not a bad thrower. You know, I don't like when people say things like he can make every throw, because if you don't think he's a great thrower, then he can't make every throw.
Right.
You know, so
right.
Now, again, like for instance, we spoke earlier about Matthew Stafford. He can't make those throws.
Right.
Now, you can argue that, depending on a game, maybe you don't have to make those throws, but there might be some games you do. And quarterbacks that don't see those throws as viable throws. That's the thing. You know, whereas Matthew Stafford sees them as viable throws, and he makes them with no problem.
Right.
So to say he can make every throw is kind of a misnomer. But he's a big kid. I've actually met him. He's a big kid. He's a great kid, too, by the way. He's got good mobility. I think he's another one of those guys that ultimately is a distributor and an executor. But I think there's more to him than is being given credit for. I kept going back and forth, to be honest with you, as to whether I see him as a true quality starter, and I'm struggling with it. Not struggling with his tape. I think his tape kind of is what it is, and I like it more than some.
Right.
But I keep going. I did speak to a really good friend of mine who scouts the Midwest, and I've not seen Howard throw live. I assume he'll throw here. And he said when you stand next to him and he throws, it doesn't come out exactly the way you want it. That's what my friend who's a scout said.
Okay.
So again, that's not me seeing him. That's, but I respect my friend who's a scout. He's been doing it for years. So that's why I keep going back and forth. But I think he's an efficient player. I think he knows how to play. He gives you enough mobility. There's something there. I don't know. And I'm being honest.
Well, I think Dan still likes you because that'll do.
That was okay.
That'll do.
I'm being honest.
Greg.
Like, I wouldn't jump up on the table for him. Let's put it that way.
Greg, this was awesome. Always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
This was great.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you, Greg.
Greg Cosell, NFL guru from NFL Films. That's what we're going with.
All right.
Check him out at Edge NFL Matchup Show and everything else. You can find him online. We'll be back with more after this on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac. All right, we're back here on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
2, 1, look up. You got to get padded up. Let's do it.
Wow, what a catch! Ridiculous.
All right.
I'll show you my arm. This is my bedroom. I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm freaked out a little bit. Good meeting you, Pete.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here.
Where are you? What kind of piece of show is this? This wouldn't happen on Kimmel.
Year 2, and I finally got an invitation, so thank you.
Well, you know we're here to race, though.
Yeah, but we're not going to race this car.
Oh, no.
Killer. Hey, how are you? Hi. I'm Kayvon. Nice to meet you. For me, it's just a blessing to always be that impact for somebody else. I always say try to be somebody to somebody. So when I go, I want my feet and my hands to move just as fast, right? It's been great getting to learn a lot, getting to meet a lot of kids. It kind of reminds you of where you used to be, and it reminds you of the impact that people have in your life. There you go. I think we had a tremendous impact on them, just being able to bring them a smile on the day and be able to, really interact with them and get to know them. And one more. Hey. Really getting to step back and enjoy the moment.
All right, Sean, we got 335 max base. We got X post, okay? Here's the post signal. I gave you the post signal. Give me a good fake. Right behind me.
Richie, I got you.
All right, wide 18. Right this side. Oh, right there. Oh, he goes. He looks.
He's open. Go get it. Go get it. Oh! Let's go!
It's the post route.
Let's go! That was awesome. Great route. Money. That was money. I think it just scattered.
Yes.
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh, let's go.
Woo! You want to go
I
for it?
didn't cross the line, O'Hara. I didn't cross the line.
Nice.
It's a thread.
A love affair. I fell in love with the Giants. I saw LT run the touchdown back when they played the Detroit Lions.
Pass down. Phil Simms was my dad's guy.
From generation.
Eli was my guy. To generation.
Ya hay espacio.
We are
The New York Giants.
We got some cilantro, some onions, some carrots.
Giving back to the community means a lot. Just to keep giving hope that, you know, you just live in a situation, the situation doesn't define you.
I got you.
Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
It's so nice of y'all.
Oh, thank you.
Just little things like that just to keep encouraging guys.
Hey, how are you? Hi. I'm Kayvon. Nice to meet you. For me, it's just a blessing to always be that impact for somebody else. I always say try to be somebody to somebody. So when I go, I want my feet and my hands to move just as fast, right? It's been great getting to learn a lot, getting to meet a lot of kids. It kind of reminds you of where you used to be, and it reminds you of the impact that people have in your life. There you go. I think we had a tremendous impact on them, just being able to bring them a smile on the day and be able to, you know, really interact with them and get to know them. Maybe one more. Hey. You know, really getting to step back and enjoy the moment.
New member of the Big Blue Kickoff Live family, Nick Baumgardner,
Great to
who
be
is
here,
a
guys.
colleague of our good friend Dane Brugler.
That's right.
Over at The Athletic.
I make sure Dane doesn't lose his mind if I can, so he stays and helps us make all this money.
What is Dane like when he's in the middle of trying to finish the beast like the week before? Because he's like the most chill, calm guy ever. I love Dane to death.
Does he have a dark room or cave like Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, like I've been interviewing him for 15 years. I'm curious to see what that process is like.
When we leave here, it's March, right? And I always joke, March Madness, we're going to watch basketball. And when we leave here, Dane, he does not get March Madness. He goes home and just shuts everything off and writes for literally a month. I don't think he even does media in March.
No,
he won't
not
do
much.
any interviews.
He doesn't, no.
So he just goes into his basement, I think, and shuts it down. But yeah, he's the best. He's the GOAT.
Yes, but you are second to none. Your draft coverage is fantastic. You did a 3-round mock to the Giants a couple of weeks ago. I think you replied on Twitter. I had my daughter do a
That was a lot. Yeah, that was awesome.
So it's very
Loved
funny.
that. That was great. Snow days are the best. Yeah.
Yes. No question. Very, very strong opinions on that draft. So we have DBs today. We haven't really focused on them yet.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter's the big one. So let me just start real basic. If you're starting from scratch, blank slate NFL team, where are you playing him, and how are you utilizing him as a pro?
So I'm playing him at corner, and I'm going to start him there, and then we're going to keep my mind open for everything else. I think you have to.
You're on the same page as us,
You
man.
have to start him at corner, I think, because the long-term, ceiling there is it's so high, and I really do think with Travis, if you listen to him talk and you talk to people that have been around him, it's he's an athlete, he's a terrific athlete, of course, but mentally he is just really, really sharp, and I do think if you give him 5 years and let him just work and be a corner and learn how to be a corner, not only would he be one of the best, if not the best in the league, I actually think in time you could flip-flop him and hey, week 1 we're playing corner, but in week 6 we got a matchup, we'd like you at receiver. That's what you're going to do in week 6. I think he's that gifted guy. He reminds me of Woodson. And he's just one of those smooth, everything works.
And the ball skills, man. He has Trayvon Diggs ball skills without giving up the big plays to have those ball skills. It's really unbelievable.
They'd be the best in the NFL at corner, I think, right now. Or in that conversation right now.
Now, a bit diminutive in size.
Yes, he's a little skinny.
Some people will say, and when I saw him this morning, it did bother me a little bit. He was a little skinny, scrawny, used what wiry.
Really? Yeah.
Lithe, perhaps.
Wiry,
like that.
More than I thought he would be when I met him in person. is that something that should concern people?
So I think if they want him to be a receiver, I almost feel like that. I think he needs to get bigger at that point. He needs to get bigger anyway. I don't know how much of a concern it is, because one thing I do wonder about is, he's been doing these 140 snap, games. I mean, he runs all day. I have to think it's hard for him. It was hard for him to keep weight on at Colorado, and he probably was even skinnier there than he is right now, I imagine. But that's my curiosity is, can he hold more weight, or was that a product of you're playing him 150 snaps a game, he's working on practice, he never gets tired, so we'll find out. Yeah, but it is a concern, for sure.
It was funny, I was watching him on tape, and I'm like, why doesn't he look like he's running fast?
I know.
And then I'm like, wait a second. He's playing 120 snaps. That's why he's not running full speed on every snap. And by the way, completely understandable. That was just one of those things that kind of click in your head. Like, yeah, that's right. He can't run fast every play because he's going to literally die on the football field.
Right.
So we also talked to Will Johnson today, and then Benjamin Morrison came out last.
Yep.
And he joked that, I was at the hospital for like 3 hours because of people looking at my hip injury.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And that's a big deal because he doesn't have that hip. He could be a top 15 pick in this draft class. And he seems like a real stand-up kid. I missed the first half of it. From talking to people, how nervous are people about the long-term potential impact on him, not just with this hip injury, but also the one that he had in high school?
It's the multiples, and I think it's really hard with him because you just said it. Like, he is such a great kid, and everything else about him, and when we have seen him healthy, it's been terrific. So I think people are really weighing that, and it's been hard. And that's why he's in there for 3 hours, and I'm sure there'll be more, conversations about that throughout the rest of the process. But it is multiple, it's multiple things, and it's the same kind of deal. It's like it becomes an issue. I mean, he had to get shut down this year, the whole thing. So it's tough because you talk to him and you can see where it's like, if he was healthy and ready to go, he would be fantastic. But yeah, top 15 easy, but just not there yet. I don't know. That's a tough one for him. I don't know how many teams know what to do with him. I feel like the range is pretty wide right now with him.
Now, we know that this is not a great draft for corners in terms of depth. We understand that.
Or safeties, for that matter.
Right, DBs
yeah, really. And we commented about those guys when we saw them earlier today. They also look rather smallish for the position. But it does seem that of the crop that's available, there are more boundary corners than slot corners, which is a change from recent years, at least from my perspective.
Right.
You agree?
Yeah, there's more bigger guys. There's more. We're seeing Darian Porter. I feel like we're seeing more of the big guys come out of recruiting and not be put into safety. The hybrids in the back end, they come out of high school and they immediately, back in the day, if you're big, you're safety or you're a linebacker. We're going to build you up. I feel like we have seen after Tariq Woolen a few years ago, we've seen more of the long kids come out and they teach them how to play corner and they stay at corner. And so we are seeing, I feel like, more of those guys. Some of those guys will even tell you they feel like they can play slot. Like Darian Porter's got enough quick feet. I doubt he could do it, but
he's fast.
Really
he's fast enough to do it. That's for sure.
The thing of it has been is they haven't shied away from letting the real long guys go out and try to play corner. And if it works, it's it's pretty cool if it works.
All right, let's talk about Will Johnson. I had a lot of difficulty. No, I had a lot of difficulty with this tape. And everyone always says to me his 2023 tape was so good. I looked at his 2023 tape. There are some flashes on there with ball skills. That's really good.
Right.
I also saw, and I looked at my notes, and I did my summer scouting, and then I did his 2024 tape. And the same note was in the both. A lot of easy catches in front of him.
Right, yep.
A lot of easy catches in front of him. And I don't know, is that him worried about guys running past him? Is that the scheme that's dictating it? Look, we Markdale in New York. He didn't play a lot of soft zone in New York.
Yeah.
He played a lot of tight man. So
in your face.
Why was he playing soft zone for Michigan? Like, what's going on? I can't get my head around him as a top 10 pick. I just can't do it.
No, especially with the injury situation, and we don't even know how bad he's hurt. He missed the whole year. I mean, he's being cagey about it to a degree. He's not going to work out here.
Yeah,
all these Michigan guys, they want
to
work out at their pro day where it's closed to everybody again.
And he might never run a 40 either.
And he will never run a 40, no. And everybody knows that he's not a big speed guy. But I think with Will, honestly, I think he freelances. I think there was a lot of that going on. I think he would go off assignment, do whatever he's feels like he can do, because you saw this year when he was healthy, he jumped I think 2 pick sixes. Yep. And he's done that before in the past. So he does what he wants to a degree, and I'm not sure that's whatever, you know what I mean?
Defensive back coaches will not be big fans of that.
He needed a big year this year, and it didn't happen. And when we started the season, Dane and I talked about him, and I think Dane had him 1 or 2 after Travis.
Yeah, he might have, yeah.
And mid-year it was he could be bottom of the first round. I mean, if the corners fall,
you can get
if the corner, 30. I think he get the 20s if the corners slide, and people are like, look, this kid hasn't done anything for. I think a lot of people wanted him to play in that Ohio State game, and they were really not happy when he didn't, scout-wise. Loveland's hurt. We know that. We saw him today with the big shoulder.
Sling, yeah, sure.
But Will didn't play, and I think a lot of people were like, this is Ohio State, Michigan. This is the biggest thing in your, supposedly in your life, and so There's questions about Will. He's got a lot to answer, I think. Talented, super talented, and very smart. Like, a really good kid. But
seemed like a great kid.
There's a lot.
And he has a lot of confidence,
yes,
too, by the way.
very confident guy. So maybe he'll prove us wrong, but there's a lot to prove here.
All right, I got to go to the big elephant in the room because of the headline that came out last night. Abdul Carter has some type of minor stress fracture in his foot. Apparently, the experts are telling him, don't do the surgery thing.
Right.
But I have to believe there's some teams that are kind of gritting their teeth and
big guys' foot injuries.
I know, it's not good.
Man.
What in the world is this going to do to his stock?
So it's like right now, obviously, everything coming out of their camp is what you said. I think he's actually planning to work out, as of now, work out at Pro Day and without the surgery.
That's what he said.
Which is what he said. So,
or that's what his agent
I don't know how this is all going to go, but I mean, like, I still think the word right now is most teams are like, we still think it'll be okay. We'll see, I guess. But it's like, he's still a top 5 player. The talent is so high there based on the rest of the class, too. There's just not, a lot there. So, but it throws a wrench in. I don't know how it can't. Because, like you said, a big guy with a foot injury, and we just found out about it here, So it's like, what if it lingers? Anytime you hear a screw has to be put in, that becomes a little concerning. So, not good at all.
Because that's a kind of injury that could get worse.
It could get worse. It could get worse if he runs on it in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a guy in the Cowboys division and the guy in the Giants division, Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yes.
He's a guy that has consistently had foot injuries.
One leads to another,
times all the time. And you have to worry about that.
Injured players just sort of like are magnets, right? That you get injured once and then it just happens over and over, and then you can't get out of your own way. And that's so when we heard that today that he was going to do that without the surgery, I was like, well, we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to give it.
And consider speed is his game too.
Yeah,
it's all
first step.
That's it.
The only thing I would say is, he just learned about this, right? So maybe we'll see.
Correct.
We'll see what happens there. But yeah, not great.
So Paul talked about the elephant in the room. I want to talk about the elephant at the safety position.
All right.
Nick Emenware, who is just bigger than everybody
else.
else.
And a giraffe.
Elephant, not fat, just gigantic. Just want to be clear about that.
And a
Talk
jaguar.
to him. Seems like a really good kid. Dad came here on an academic scholarship from Nigeria. His brother's an accountant. His dad's like an engineer. Really smart kid. But you don't see 230-pound safeties anymore. In fact, my joke all the time when I look at these linebackers is he's smaller than Landon Collins was when he came to the Giants in 2017. Like, they were all, skinnier than Landon Collins, who was the top safety in that draft class, right? So you look at him, though, and it's something else. And I have not done my safety work yet. I leave them for last because it takes me forever to watch safety because they're an annoying position.
It's hard to,
it's very annoying. So they're last for me. Is he a guy that you think, if the Giants still have their second-round pick after free agency and potential trades, is that a guy that you think could get to the top end of the second round? Because I think putting a physical freak like that with a Tyler Nubin could be
oh my God,
really
that would be amazing.
Unbelievable safety combination.
It would be incredible. Emenware is maybe the best athlete pound for pound here. Like, he will run a 4.3. I don't think that's made. He says he's going to. I actually believe him. I think he's done that before. Actually, I think he's been doing that. Somebody said the other day he's been testing in 4.35s. He's been a 42-inch vert guy already. He's 6'3", 229. He's got great ball skills. He is a mutant.
He's bigger than Bobby O'Carroll.
He's
starting middle linebacker.
He's one of the youngest guys
Am I wrong?
here.
No, you're not.
He's barely 20. One of the youngest guys here. He was a huge big play guy at South Carolina. The one thing, though, is there are also those moments on tape where he gets a little lost. But I don't think he makes it out of the first. I don't know if he makes it out of the first round. I
don't
really
know if he does either.
I feel like you got to go up for him
in this class with those traits. I don't know how.
There's so many things he could. Yeah, exactly. In this class with all the stuff he could bring, I feel like that's a lot.
You know what's funny? In talking to a lot of these safeties earlier, and we've said that it's not a great safety class, but yet every guy I talk to, I can play both sides.
I know. Yeah.
I can play in the box.
I can do anything.
And by the way, I can also play slot.
Right.
Well, you know what,
why
fellas?
Are you?
If you're all that good, then this has got to be the best position in the draft.
Right. This is like, are you guys all going first round?
I mean, really?
Right.
How many picks do we have?
That's my favorite. We get that happens with the defensive linemen now too. It's like I can play 1 through 9, 0 through 9. And I'm like, I don't think you can. I don't think anybody can do that. Right. So it's like.
But there is one guy I want to ask you about.
Okay, go ahead.
Xavier Watts from Notre Dame.
Yes.
Who there seems to be a bit of a cavern on.
Yeah.
People aren't quite sure how to grade him. What do you think?
I like him. I don't know why there is that bit of a. I agree with you. I see a wide range on him. I would think he's closer to a healthy Kevin Winston, maybe. I like him. I think he's a guy who made a lot of plays for Notre Dame down the stretch. Really smart player. When you look at everything Notre Dame did this season to get as far as it did, that was that defense. It was and it was the back end for the most part. He made plays on the ball. I believe he was a captain, if not, a guy who was setting the defense for them. So. I don't know why. Maybe it's a size thing. I'm not sure. But like you said, a lot of these guys are a little bit small. We'll see how they run. But there's a lot of smart guys in this group. Like Jahdae Barron's a corner who could maybe even play safety. Really smart. Malachi Moore is a brilliant, football IQ guy. But it's like he's limited in what he can do. So there's a lot of that going on.
Giants NFL Combine coverage is presented by the Hospital for Special Surgery, the world's #1 in orthopedics. Choose better, move better. HSS, the official hospital of the Giants. All right, Nick, before we say goodbye, want to ask you, I like to ask all the guys that dig deep here, who are some of the day 2, day 3 guys that just you loved watching and were so much fun that if you're a team, all right, if I can get this guy
right,
4, I'm all pumped up. Who are some of those guys?
I got a couple. I just wrote about one this week on The Athletic. Thomas Perry from Middlebury, the Division III center/guard, who is...
He works Shrine?
Yes.
He did a nice job there.
He works with Duke Manyweather and has been... Duke thinks he's the strongest player in the draft, period. And, like, up there with Will Campbell in terms of work ethic. He's the hardest worker that he's had in some time. Terrific kid. Just, like, off-the-charts athleticism. You watch his D3 tape, and it looks like a grown adult just crushing high school. You know, so he's one. Essa Pohl is a guy from Washington State, also at the Shrine, who... Essa did not play college or high school football at all. He began his football life as a freshman in college and junior college ball. His brother Tony Pohl there played at Wazoo and helped him out. But I mean, he's a great story. There's a lot of guys like that in this class. A lot of like athletes who are new to the game-ish in a way that can always surprise you a little bit.
By the way, we haven't asked anyone this, so I want to follow up. Is this one of the deeper classes you've seen? Getting in, like, just draftable players? Is this the last year of COVID and all that stuff?
I think that's a great point, because it is. That's why this draft is so weird. At the top, we're like, meh. But, you know, as you get down, you get into day 3, into 4 and 5 and 6, and you're like, there's still good players here. So draftable guys that can help a team, absolutely. And I think that is we're at the end, finally, of the tail of COVID. There won't be any more 26-year-olds rolling out there, I don't think, for too much longer.
My final question, and let's pull Abdul Carter off the board here because of the injury. Who's the guy most likely to take a tumble, in your opinion?
Guy most likely to take a tumble? Well, Will Johnson might be one right there that I would say. I might go with him, actually, because I was hopeful to hear him say he was going to work out here after all year, right? We've been here, and scouts were frustrated, everything else, and it was just like, he's dinged. It's a toe. He doesn't want to. So he's the one that I kind of have my eyes on now, and I said that this afternoon. I was like, him and Kenneth Grant also. Another one who's not working out. The other Michigan guy.
Did Grant say he's not working out? I missed that.
He said yesterday, well, apparently it's reported. Adam Schefter reported today that he's got apparently a hamstring, which I'm like, okay. So he's got a hamstring injury, which
345 pounds, by the way.
Are you not in shape? Right? So he skipped the Shrine Bowl. Well, he was supposed to play there.
That's right, and did not make people very happy.
No, people were not happy with that. So he's probably actually the guy over Will. I would say is tumbling here.
I remember day 2 of Shrine. I'm asking around. Yeah, he's actually going to be at the practice today. He might have his helmet with him.
No, yeah, they had. Where do I send my stuff? Then he just doesn't even do it. Okay, whatever. And he played next to Mason Graham.
I think you could argue if he gets his stuff together, he might have more upside than Graham.
Athlete,
he's
phenomenal.
He has Dexter Lawrence vibes when you look at him.
He's not making it up that he could hit 4.8 maybe on. I'm sure he's had ridiculous numbers on the gun already. With the GPS and everything, but. Yeah, it's been a weird winter for him, so we'll see about that. He's really young, too. So,
that's interesting. All right, we've been kind of pulling everybody on this question before we say goodbye. The Giants might be in the mode for a quarterback at the top of the draft.
Yeah.
Do you have big distance between Cam Ward and Shedeur? Are they close for you? And then do you have a day 2 quarterback that you think could be a developmental guy that you like?
Yeah, they're close. I think Cam is ahead of him, not by a lot. I think Cam's ceiling is better. I like the improvement track that he's shown his entire career from wing tee to now.
A lot of snaps too in college.
Yeah, throwing the ball a lot. And a guy that went into Miami, picked it up just like that, and took off. We had no problem with it. I like Shedeur a lot too. I think I look at him in the same way I looked at Bo Nix. I think we can a similar vibe there.
I agree.
If you help him out, I think he could be good for you. I'm not sure long term, but there's also some bust possibilities with both those guys too. So that's why it's a little bit shaky for me on either side. But you go into the second round, those guys are interesting. Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe. I like Kyle McCord. I think Kyle McCord's going to go higher than people probably think he did. I think he did really well in testing, like the mental stuff and everything else, like off the field. So Milroe might be the one guy that I was like, I really wanted him to go back to school.
A lot of work there, man.
But if he runs like a 4.3 and he's Jalen Hurts' size, and it's like, we'll get the work in. You know
what, though? I had a scout tell me 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned this to John. They said to me, I want to see Milroe's measurements at the Combine because they're going to be disappointing.
Well, he was measured at the Senior Bowl.
Some people are going to say, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, and they were wah, wah, wah when he threw it at the Senior Bowl, too.
Yeah,
so.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The hand size is the way.
I know. And his feet are a mess, too.
What got me about Milroe at the Senior Bowl, and I apologize for adding like 4 questions
no worries.
he never let it go.
Exactly. Yeah.
He looked like a second baseman with the yips trying to throw passes.
Right, yeah.
He looked like Chuck Knobloch in 1999 for the New York Yankees. And like, obviously I'm not a quarterback
He kind of did, yeah.
but
That's not wrong.
You never saw the Phil Sims hit, turn,
Rip
torque,
it.
rip. It was always kind of like, I'm going to hold the football here and then kind of try to aim it. And I'm like, dude, you have an arm.
Right.
Just throw it as far as you can on a rep.
I know.
I didn't know, and I wonder if that's him worrying about contrrolling the ball, torquing heavy with the hand size. I don't know.
I think it's everything. I think he's a guy that just needs, like, he was a guy they started him before he was maybe even ready. They had to sit him down at Bama when Saban was still there. Just needs a ton of work to learn how to play quarterback, and it's like, that's the league right now. That's college football. There's a lot of guys like that.
There are.
But the athleticism there is why he's the big conversation.
He sells his legs.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
And you, in overall big board, Shadorn's Cam around like 15-ish?
Yeah, I would say both. I think I've been saying both are top 20 guys.
Okay.
I think Cam is close to 15. I would say Shador's a couple of spots under that. But, I would have a real hard time at 1 or 2 with either of those guys. You know what I'm saying?
Taking either one over Carter or Hunter could be tough. If they're
especially
gone,
if Abdul's
would you
healthy.
feel better about it?
If they're gone, yeah, I think so. Especially if I was like, New York's in a situation where I like Dable a lot, and he hasn't had a chance to work with a young guy quite yet there in New York. I'd like to see him get that opportunity. I think they could do some things there. So I think New York could maybe surprise people with their ability to maybe make this work okay, so they got to do it. I think that's what the situation is, and one of those guys should be fine.
Nick, you're awesome, man. This was a lot of fun.
Appreciate it.
Good talking. Let's be in touch. I'm also a big. You're a Black Hole Sun or Spoon Man guy.
Oh yeah, I got it all. Bad Motor
You're
Finger
a
on the
Spoon Man
day.
guy. What do you think? What do you like?
I like this one. Bad Motor Finger and this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was your favorite, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Better than Black Hole Sun. I appreciate that.
Old school.
All right, Nick Baumgardner. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with talk about what we saw at the podium from the DBs. Dude, you're awesome, man.
All right, Sean, we got 335 max base. We got X post, okay? Here's the post signal. I gave you the post signal. Give me a good fake right behind me.
I got you.
All right, wide 18. All right, this side. Oh, right there. Oh, he goes. He looks.
He's open. Go get it. Go get it. Brado! Let's go!
It's the post route.
Let's go! That was awesome. Great route. Money. That was money. I think it just scattered.
Yes.
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh, let's go.
Woo.
That was.
You want to go for
I
it?
didn't cross the line, O'Hara. I didn't cross the line.
Nice.
All right, Sean, we got 335 max base.
All right, we're back here on Big Blue Kickoff Live to wrap everything up on our third show on this Thursday from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino with you. Paul, we've talked about some of these guys over the course of the show. We had the defensive backs and tight ends at the podium.
Yeah.
We didn't do much on the tight end, so we should talk about them as well. DBs, we talked about Will Johnson. We talked about Benjamin Morrison already. A couple of the guys that jumped out to me, Billy Bowman, I thought, from Oklahoma, who had a nice Senior Bowl. I thought he was a good talker, fun to talk to. And then R.J. Mickens, who's Ray Mickens' son. Seems like a really nice kid. Corner. He can play safety, corner, nickel, that type of thing. Smaller guy, but I kind of enjoyed him talking about his mindset and stuff like that over the course of the day.
I had a couple tight ends I wanted to highlight during this segment, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
C.J. Dupree, tight end out of Alabama. The dude looks like he could be Dan Campbell's twin. He is cut out of the side of a mountain. And, I didn't ask him what his weight or what his playing weight was going to be. But here's what was interesting. A former high school quarterback whose brother is a super power lifter. So he said as they would grow up and he'd be with his brother, they had the whole weight kit. And he was constantly powerlifting. Is it any wonder that his biceps are thicker than our necks? The dude is massive. He is a tractor trailer.
He's a blocking tight end, right?
Exactly. And in fact, one of the things that he said...
I'll be honest with you, I'd rather pair Theo Johnson with a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end.
Well, that's okay.
Okay.
He highlighted Freiermuth in particular as a guy who he really respects a lot. I can only say this guy... You looked at him at the podium, and you would be afraid to try to take him on at the line of scrimmage.
Tyler Warren, very impressive physically.
Yeah.
He looks physically just like Jeremy Shockey. From the hair to the body type to the size, he's like a Jeremy Shockey clone. That guy is going to be a good tight end. He's not going to work here, which has kind of become a theme with a lot of these top players, which is disappointing. But I was impressed by him. I had a chance to talk to Colston Loveland a little bit. His arm is, Nick mentioned, was in a sling. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. So he says he's going to do stuff at the Michigan Pro Day. I'll believe that when I see it, given the fact that he was basically immobilized in his arm. But I didn't realize, like, he grew up on a farm. He's a farm kid. You know, you don't think, like, the, skinnier, receiving tight ends grow up on a farm. He's a farm kid. So somebody asked him, what was your favorite chore on the farm that you had to do as a kid? And he goes, first he said, I wouldn't call it favorite. None of them were fun. But I always enjoyed helping to brand the young cattle. So you would hold their legs back and you would brand the back of the cattle. And then he said, mostly because we got to miss a half day of school to brand the cattle. But if people worry about his toughness, that is a kid that grew up on a farm branding cattle. You're not going to have to worry about that kid's toughness.
You're going to know why I loved Luke Lachey, the tight end out of Iowa, John.
I talked to him at the Shrine Bowl on one of our Huddle podcasts. Really sweet kid. Really nice
dynamite.
Yeah.
Jim Lachey, the former offensive lineman with Washington, as you guys know. This is his son. And here's what I loved about it, right? He talked about play hard every time. You have to block if you're going to play at Iowa. That's mandatory in Coach Ferengia's system. But here's what I loved. He goes, 7-on-7 football, that's not real football. And when I heard that, I wanted to just hug the guy because he's all about power football, smash mouth football, and let's get into it and be a slobber knocker.
Yeah, that's
what he's about.
By the way, Paul, I'm all about a round 4 tight end for the Giants because one of these guys is going to drop and they're going to get a good player. I was impressed by a bunch of other guys. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, who was at the Senior Bowl, did a really nice job. I didn't have a chance to talk to him there.
Okay.
But really impressed. He goes, I think I have the same type of wiggle at the top of my route as Travis Kelce.
Well, that's not a bad comparison.
That is a very good comparison.
I'll give you a different statement.
And by the way, our guy Charles, who's doing a great job on all the graphics and the B-roll in there, I got to bring up this guy from Gunnar Helm, his tight end out of Texas. Really impressive kid. Really smart, good talker, tall, kind of has that Mike Gesicki type of build when you look at him. Really, really good guy. And he's got really details. Look, they want to be a vertical tight end to make up for Jatavian Sanders' departure, so I kind of worked that part of it, but didn't give me a chance to block it. I wanted to block more and do more intermediate routes to wiggle. But and I watched him really, really good on tape. And he got deep. He's like, I think my body type is very similar to Greg Calcaterra from the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm like, all right, you're a student of the game.
Yeah.
If you're pulling Calcaterra out of the
then you know what you're doing.
That means you know what you're doing. So I was kind of impressed by him.
I'll give you Jackson Hawes, tight end out of Georgia Tech. Okay, somebody went up to him and said, we watched you a lot, and we've been told by people that they describe you as being salty on the field. He goes, well, whenever I get out there, I'm looking to punish people.
Who said that?
Jackson Hawes.
Oh yeah, he's
from
a good
Georgia State.
He's a good blocking guy too.
He says he when he first got there, he credited the tight end coach because he said, I was very passive in blocking. He said, now what they taught me was I want to stamp it on the other guy's chin. I mean, this guy's all about, beating people up on the line of scrimmage. And then the other thing, when he was asked about, what do you think your best game was? He goes, well, go back and look at my tape against Florida State. I think I flattened 8 or 9 different guys on different plays. This is a tight end, not a lineman.
2 other guys at tight end I want to mention, and then we'll wrap things up. Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green. I thought he was fun to talk to. Much wider than I thought he would be. He's only 20 years old, too. And he's so good after the catch. He said, look, I like to be physical. So I think despite the fact he's going to be only probably 235 pounds, he's a physical player and wants to be physical.
Okay.
I like the way he talked about it, and a versatile guy. So he was asked who his favorite quarterback is to watch in the NFL. You know what he answered?
No
Give
idea.
you 30 guesses. You would have get it.
Well,
Jameis Winston.
Oh,
I
my
love his
goodness.
personality.
Wow.
And he did not have that Jameis type of bubbly personality, too. But I just I thought that was a funny answer. And then Oronde Gadsden Jr. basically looks like his dad. He's a true tweener.
Yeah.
He looks like a wide receiver. He was actually built in the shoulders a little bit more than I thought, but he is thin. I think he's a guy that could be a late riser in this process.
His time is going to be important for him.
Correct.
John.
I don't know how fast he's going to be, but he has good game speed and he gets open all the time. And he's
good hands.
He's going to be much more that Evan Ingram style F move receiver. He's not an inline guy.
I agree.
Like a guy like Helm and Fenn, I think maybe they could do it a little bit, but Gadsden is much more of your like pure outside guy. So
and what's so interesting here is that
look at all the guys we're mentioning. There's so many of them.
It was an impressive tight end group, and we knew coming in, right? People said defensive line, running back, and tight end, right?
Yeah.
So and the Giants, they've got Theo Johnson, they've got Daniel Bellinger. To be frank with you,
and Tyron Tracy Jr. for that matter.
Well, I'm talking about the third tight end.
Yeah. Okay, third tight end.
Who's the third tight end?
Right.
Who's the third tight end? Because they got two guys already.
Well, and if they bring back a Manhurst who's a blocker and Bellies, but see, they don't have like the F move tight end, in my opinion, and that's why and there's enough of those guys here. Like you get Gunnar Helm in round 4, sign me up, dude. Hook 'em horns, Charles. I saw your text.
I'm still thinking, you know what? If you can get a bruiser to be in line, because Bellinger at times has been inconsistent with his blocking, to be frank. I know he would like to do better and to get at a higher level, but I'd have no problem if they brought in somebody like Lachey or one of these other fellows who can just punish people on the edge.
Belly and Johnson both as two-way tight ends. That's their strength. They're not receiving tight ends. You know what I mean?
Right, but what I'm saying is...
Bring Manhurst back.
You could. If you want to get somebody younger.
You can. That's true.
Anyway.
Guys, thanks for being with us, man. Awesome episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live. One more episode tomorrow. We'll have a number of guests coming your way. Field Yates, Rhett Lewis, Fran Duffy, who does a great job on All City Networks covering the draft, and then Ryan Fowler as well. So a lot of draft tomorrow, a little around the NFL stuff with Rhett Lewis, but it should be a lot of fun, and Field Yates for that
And
matter.
make sure, we did a promo earlier that Cynthia Freeland was going to be with us. We had to make a little swap.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Paul. I forgot about that. So Cynthia showed up while we were playing back the 2 interviews from yesterday earlier in the show.
She was early.
We recorded her as a huddle, so that will pop up at some point over the weekend, Monday, something like that. So check that out, too. So that'll be fun
Good stuff from
with
her,
Cynthia
too.
Freeland. Yes, thank you, Paul. I'm happy you reminded me of that. So that's it for Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. We will see you on Friday for one more episode live from the Combine in Indianapolis.